Let's kick things off with Sales Path. Our goal here, and actually many of you guys for years know that we've had sales processes. So you could set up a number of different opportunity stages and configure them in such a way that a sales rep could progress through a sales process. We have taken that a step further with Sales Path. With Sales Path, not only do you have the same rich capabilities to design a sales process, but we're also going to be able to visually guide reps based on the sales stage from their mobile device. So within Salesforce One, whether you're on a tablet or the phone, you'll be able to see all of your opportunity stages laid out across the top and know at a glance where you are. We also want to help admins and sales managers spotlight the most relevant information that reps should be thinking about in a particular sales stage. For example, what are the kinds of fields they should be populating on the opportunity or asking their prospects and customers? What kind of guidance can we provide them in terms of tips and tricks? Maybe this is links to chatter files or chatter groups or other links to third-party sites. This will now be possible with Sales Path, and I'm going to be demoing this for you live in just a bit here. We're also innovating in the area of tasks. And here we're taking advantage of real estate on the tablet. So with tasks, we'll see a single task list along the left, and you'll be able to drill into the details of each of those tasks along the right and see related information like the account, the contact, the opportunity that the task may be associated to. We'll also have actions available in tasks. So whether it's a row-level action and you're taking action on a single task, like updating the status, updating the date of the task, or taking a global action, like creating a chatter post or creating a new opportunity, you'll have that capability right from the tasks to panel view in the tablet. Now, a note about tasks. This capability is something that is coming in our I was going to say 194, that's our internal code name, but it's coming in our spring release. But what's a little bit unique is that it is going to require the 7.2 version of the downloadable app. So you won't have that capability as soon as the release goes live. You'll get that later this spring when the 7.2 downloadable app becomes available on the various app stores. Now today continues to be a great destination for sales rep, and we're optimizing here as well. We are introducing some new cards to make sales reps that much more productive on the go when they're in the Today app, and also introducing the same global actions bar on the Today screen. And some examples of those new capabilities or new cards on Today is first and foremost recent dashboards. So the dashboard that you most recently visited, you're now going to see that right on the Today screen without having to go drill into the dashboard tab. We're also bringing in chatter at mentions. So if someone has chattered you recently, whether they're asking you for help on something or they've shared a file or some other information with you, again, that's going to be front and center on Today. And lastly, account news. Account news is something that we had in pilot last release and is now going to be generally available. And it can be surfaced in Salesforce One on either the Today screen, which I'll show you, as well as the account record. Now, the account news is powered by data.com, which is great. Yes, shout out for data.com. However, it does not require a data.com license, which is great. So check it out. I'll show you in just a bit how this is going to work. And the idea is that it's going to help surface news related to accounts that you're meeting with that day or records that you've recently referenced in Salesforce. And lastly, and this is not a Salesforce One capability, this is a desktop capability, but we now will have owner adjustments in collaborative forecasts, which we're really excited about. This was a capability that existed in customizable forecasting, and we have now brought that same capability into the newer collaborative forecasts, so that if you're a sales manager or a sales rep, you can adjust your forecast. And you don't have to specify, as a manager, what we had to do before is if you wanted to adjust your forecast, you had to say, well, what person on your team are you going to adjust the forecast for to get to that overall number? Sometimes that can be tedious and you're not quite sure. You just know that, hey, at the end of the month, I'm going to get a bluebird. I need to just increase my forecast just a bit here. So you'll now have that capability. This also, again, unlocks this feature for sales reps. So sales reps before had to make sure their opportunities were up to date because that's what was going to roll into the forecast. And while that's still the case, as a sales rep, you might need to either increase or dial down your forecast. So with the owner adjustments, that will now be possible. Okay, so enough slides. Let's jump into the demo. And actually, I take that back. I'm going to have to do 2 more slides here. So if we could go back to the slides, great. So just to save from having to log into different devices, I've just done a couple quick screenshots of how to set up Sales Path. And that's where we're going to start. Then we'll move into the demo. So Sales Path, there is going to be a new node in setup. And as an administrator, we just need you to select Enable, which is that top screenshot there. Once Sales Path is enabled, you'll then select the New button to create a new sales path for your org. Now we've set up a very simple 3-step wizard to guide you administrators through the setup process. So what we're looking at now is step 1. The first thing you'll need to do is give your sales path a name, and you'll have to select a record type. So Sales Path is based on record types. So if you want to set it up for certain record type and sales processes, you can do that so that you don't have to enable it for all record types. Now for companies that don't use record types, or if you're using Professional Edition, which doesn't have record types, not to worry. You don't have to select a record type here. It's not required. So if you don't select a record type, we'll just pick up whatever stages you have configured as your sales process. Okay, so that's step 1. Step 2, now this gets a little busy here, but this is where you're going to set up the fields and the text that you want to appear for each opportunity stage. Across the top, we'll show you all of the stages that are enabled for the sales process associated with that record type. And in this example here, qualification is step 1. And an administrator can pick up to 5 opportunity fields that they'd like to appear when the rep is in the qualification stage. Now, on the right-hand side, the admin can also provide rich text. Again, this can be links to Chatter, files, other sites, quote templates, data sheets, you name it. The limit there is 1,000 characters, so that is something to be mindful of. This isn't where you write a novel about a sales methodology or a step in the sales process. You know, brevity is important, and that's really why we've optimized this for Salesforce One, to keep the key information front and center for the sales rep. And then lastly, you finish. Once you finish this setup process, it will immediately become available on the opportunity page layout in Salesforce One for whatever record type you set it up with. So now let's go take a look at this on my tablet, and I'll show you that sales process that I just set, or sales path that I just set up. So if we could go to the tablet. All right, so let's actually pause here for just a moment. This is the new today with new cards. So not only am I seeing my upcoming appointment, the appointments or events that I have later in the day, I've got my tasks that I need to action, I've got recent records, but the 3 new exciting cards I want to draw special attention to is the feed. So I can see Bill West reached out to me, pretend I'm Julie here. Check this out. This may be helpful with the particular deal that I'm working on, saving me from having to go directly to the Chatter feed, which I can still do, but it's great to have that information in different places. On the right here, I can see account news. So the account news is going to be based on who am I meeting with? Who are the accounts I'm meeting with today? What are the account records that I've recently touched in Salesforce? I can drill into this and get even more news.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, lots of great, rich content here. So imagine as a sales rep, you're walking into a meeting and having this at your fingertips to know what's going on in my accounts or what's going on in the industry that might be relevant. It's really a nice time saver and pushes this great information to me. And then as I scroll down, I've got my most recent dashboard. Again, I can still go find this on the dashboards tab, but nice to have this all consolidated, again, bringing me relevant information when I need it. Okay, so that is today. Let me drill into our new tasks experience for the tablet. Now this is great. This is a lot like a traditional task management application where you want to just work your list of tasks and get through it quickly without having to drill into each one and come back out to the list. So I can do that here. I've got my task here on the top. I've got the details about this task on the right. I can click over to the related tab to see, what is the account or the contact or the opportunity that's relevant here. I can take row level actions. So I won't do that now, but you can see here with just a swipe, I can change the date, update the status, edit the comments, you name it. And I can also do that down here at a macro level to create a new task, etc. So let's take a look at this discovery call that I've got scheduled or that I've got to take care of. I notice here this is associated with the Valley supply chain opportunity, and let's drill into that. Well, here is the new sales path, and we can see here I have a very simple 5-step sales process, and the first stage that I'm in here is qualification. So my administrator has configured for me the fields that we're trying to capture as from sort of that sales ops, sales management perspective. It's important to capture certain relevant data at the right time, but it's also important to give something to the rep and to help them in that stage. And so here we've got our fields. In qualification, it's really important to be thinking about the type of deal this is. Oops, click happy. Let's do that again. That's my bad. Sorry, guys. The beauties of a live demo.
So as we're beginning to...
Oops. There we go. OK. So I'm going to indicate the type of deal. This might be add-on business. And what's the compelling event that's driving this? Maybe there's a new CIO who wants to go cloud. And then, is this project budgeted? Now, if you have required fields, right now this is set up so that this is all just optional. But if you have required fields or validation rules set up in the system, SalesPath will honor that. And so, you can certainly surface that requiredness or anything that might be read-only. Now, when I look at the right here, these are some things for me to be thinking about. What's their business? What's their pain? Maybe there's a link to qualification questions or a place to create a new trial. And when I'm done with this, I can simply mark the stage as complete, which is going to, behind the scenes, update the stage, drop me into the next stage, which in this case is needs analysis. And now we can see there's a different set of fields. Here, I can populate the current solution, the product interest, or whatever else I know about this. And what's great here is it's just surfacing the key fields. I'm not pulling up the entire opportunity page layout, which might have 200 fields for some admins who've really gone crazy adding fields. So it just makes it nice for sales reps to just get in, get out when they're on their mobile device. OK, so we also have a feature where you can, what we're calling peek ahead. So I might skip price proposal altogether for whatever reason, and that's OK. You can move forward in the process, mark this as the current stage, which will assume you've completed those prior stages. And again, not to worry, if you have a validation rule that prevents that jump ahead, the system will maintain that and surface the appropriate error message. OK, so I am ready to close this deal. And I just want to point out, I'm going to do 2 different things when I close this. First, I want to show you that I've set up, when it's closed lost, I don't have any text. Really, that's kind of all bad news, right? There's nothing to say at this point in terms of guidance, but I do want to capture maybe the reason lost and the winning competitor here. So this is an example of a stage that just has fields and no text. And you can do the converse as well. You could set up a stage with just text and no fields. But really, since I'm such a killer sales rep, let's face it, we know this is closed won. I've got a nice little image here. I'm on the road to success. And I can populate the implementation start date and contract number. So I also want to mention, if you're a really seasoned sales rep, this may be overkill. You might not need this. Or if your sales process is just incredibly complex and you couldn't possibly point people to the right fields and text for that process. You can also, each user can just choose to hide this. So I could have a sales path experience that just consists of this chevrons and the visual nature of updating the stage, which is a huge benefit in and of itself. Okay, so with that, I hope you guys liked what you saw, and we'll just come back to slides. All right, so where are we going next with some of these features here? And I'm on my roadmap slide. Fantastic, thank you. Okay, so we want to continue to improve what you saw here today with additional user interface and user experience enhancements, as well as APIs. So for those of you techies, I do have to let you know that Sales Path right now, there is no public API or metadata API support for this feature. So that's something that we're focusing on first and foremost in our next release. I really envision some partners maybe wanting to develop app exchange packages that you could down and install into your org where you've got a sales path that's already set up and canned. So with that API work, that will enable some of that kind of packaging. Just as you saw how we've optimized the tasks experience, we're doing the same thing with notes, making notes a lot more user-friendly, where you can type in notes, bulleted lists, numbered lists, and what's really exciting is that oftentimes when you're taking notes as a sales rep, a lot of it is to-dos. It's things that I need to go back to the office and do, get you a quote, follow up with the product expert. So we're pulling in some capabilities with swipe gestures to be able to, from a note, create a task, which is like so cool.
Incredible.
So I'm really excited about seeing that. And this is, we'll work on all form factors. So this is something we're optimizing for the phone, for the tablet, as well as the desktop experience. Speaking of desktop, this is going to be a huge focus for us this year within the Sales Cloud. And really, Sales Path is a great example of that. So Sales Path is a Salesforce 1 feature only at this point, but we're going to be hard at work taking Sales Path and moving it over into a new desktop experience, along with bringing over some of our other capabilities within the Sales Cloud. So stay tuned for more information on that in the coming releases. Shared contacts. I think this might be like idea number 6 or 7. It's definitely a top 10 out there on the idea exchange. The ability to link contacts to multiple accounts. We'll continue to work on that. And as well as work.com, taking work.com and pulling in the work.com capabilities into the force.com platform so that you can take advantage of things like custom fields, workflows, all the great things that you're used to with force.com. So we've got a lot of work to do, but we're really thrilled and hope you guys are too.
Excellent. Now, I really hope our customers can appreciate how great some of the things that you just showed are, because as currently stand before this release, in order to gain anything that was even close to that sales path, it involved a lot of complex workflow rules to flip record types and change these field and page layouts, for them, and it was almost a manual process. And what you showed us makes that so much easier and brings so much more to the table. So I hope people can really, really appreciate how incredible what you just showed us with.
Thanks.
But we won't know until we find out what they're asking. And to cover that, let's go to Sam.
Well, the reaction to Sales Path is phenomenal. You addressed one of the questions. Just to reiterate, right now it's a Salesforce 1 feature, but soon in future releases to be available on the desktop, correct?
Absolutely.
So Pat, Carol, Rick, Cheryl, and Gio, that was for you. Anne, I want to share just a great idea from Anne. She said, is lead paths anywhere near in the future? Wow. And I thought, wow, what a great idea. So I'm going to, Anne, put that in the idea exchange so that we can take a look at it, because I thought that that was a really fun idea. Shalom is asking on the OS for 7.2. What are our operating system restrictions? Is that something that we should just answer? Okay, yeah, we'll take that offline. Yeah. We'll come back to you with that. Speaking of which, we don't leave these questions unanswered, so don't feel that you can't continue to put them in. We had a great question just in terms of being able to attach a file on opportunities when you're using Salesforce 1 and I'm using Sales Path and I have a file that I want to attach. That's all possible through the app, correct?
Absolutely. All right. So you can attach a link to a file and make that available to all of the reps, and they can then download it.
I want to do a shout out to Steve, because he pointed out that in the release notes it says they're using the term quick actions instead of publisher actions. And so in case we use the term publisher actions and you're looking in the release notes for that, I would look for quick actions. They're synonymous.